Hello, YouTubers. This is Anonymous T. Hope you're having an amazing day today. Today, I am reviewing Joe Millionaire for Richer, for Poorer. They've totally revamped the original Joe Millionaire, where the original series was essentially the women were made to believe that Joe was a millionaire, but really he was just having a regular blue collar job or what have you, and they didn't find it out till the end, and it was like all this drama. And so now they've completely revamped the show to where now there's two men, there's two Joes, i.e., by the name of Kurt and Steven, and one of them is worth $10 million, and the other guy, although he's not a millionaire, it seems like he's making at least six figures because he basically owns his own construction company. And the construction field is nothing to sneeze at. You can make really good salaries even just as an employee. So I'm not sure why they were trying to like down it, but that was on that. Right off the bat, main character energy is going to Carolyn and Suzette for different reasons. I feel like Suzette is like basically kind of like the viewer in us and kind of just reacting to all of the drama going on into the house and her perspective of how things are going on. And then I feel like Carolyn's main character energy, because immediately on one of the suitors, he just like zeroed in on her and was like ready to risk it all, was ready to be done with the show, and did not care about these other women. So basically, the show starts off, with each of the gentlemen, Kurt and Steven, arriving in Rolls Royces to this mansion. There's like this butler who's like doubling as like the host, as well as the intermediate between the guys and the contestants. There's 18 ladies that all come in, and right off of the bat, we get the intros of, each of the men, which one is rich, which ends up being Steven. He's like this rancher, has like a helicopter, has all this stuff, is worth $10 million. And then Kurt, he's the one who owns the construction company. And so, then we dive right into the men meeting the women at like some type of cocktail party setup. And immediately, Steven recognizes one of the contestants, Carolyn. He said that she follows him on Instagram and he follows her. And this is a conflict of interest because basically she could expose him as being the millionaire. And then essentially there would be like no purpose of the show because she could essentially just tell the other contestants. So he immediately requested production to pull her aside so he could have a conversation with her, and basically had to eliminate her since this was, obviously not going to work well in the event that, she reveals to the other women that he's the millionaire. And then, that could potentially, depending on who's really there for love and who's really there, to be a gold digger, could set up some future problems. So she was pretty pissed that she got eliminated so quickly, but it is what it is. And that's on that. So we move forward, and the next day they basically, gather the women together and essentially, reveal to the ladies that, one of them's a millionaire, one of them is not a millionaire. And so then, a lot of them are intrigued. A lot of them are trying to ask questions. And then Kurt and Steven, they come up with a game plan that Kurt's going to try to throw them off. And he's going to try to portray himself as the one who's rich, who's worldly, who's, cultural, who's been to private school, who's traveled the world, this and that. And basically Steven's approach is he's going to downplay the fact that he's a rancher and try to make it seem like very like low level, that he's not, basically, calling the shots. And so one of the ladies basically said that, she has a stepfather that, runs a ranch, has the cattle and everything else. So I think she knows deep down who the rich person is. And then somebody else brought up a good point that, Kurt seems the more fashionable one of the two. And basically, sometimes the people who appear more flashy and this and that are usually the ones who don't have as much money, and that usually the rich people are, tend to look or seem like they're poor, but really they're not. Really, they're sitting on a whole bunch of dough. So I felt that was a really good observation, and it's very true to fact as well. So, and then even to take it a step further, sometimes they don't always have like the most fanciest cars. Sometimes they have like, the most regular types of cars, or, not as flashy, this and that. And it's just, it's a different type of life depending on for certain rich people. So I felt those were good observations. And so a lot of it was, a lot of the women kind of commiserating, trying to see, what questions they could get out of, the different gentlemen. Who wants to have kids? Who wants to, how soon people want to have kids and settle down, and this and that. And then it was just like a moment because, Kurt, he was having a moment sitting down talking with a different group of ladies. And then out of nowhere, Carolyn appears and he completely just loses focus. He completely loses sight of, what is going on, because he's just, he is so like love at first sight when it comes to Carolyn. And so he was just really feeling her, and he like even got caught off guard. So then we move forward, and the next set of things that take place is two group dates. And essentially what happens is the butler, told the ladies there are these black boxes that, are all wrapped up as gifts, and they're either going to have dress shoes, like heels in one box, or they're going to have cowboy boots in one of the box. And so basically that's going to be the date. If you have the dress shoes, that's going to be the cotillion that you're going to be going on the date on. And then if you get the cowboy boots, then that means you are going to be going to like a honky tonk, dive bar and doing some line dancing. So the women don't know which one is going to be which, and essentially, depending on what you choose, if you choose heels, then there's going to be like a nice gown on your bed. If you choose, the cowboy boots, then you're going to have like a flannel that you'll like put together some type of outfit with the flannel. And so then after that, we see the butler trying to teach like the waltz to both men, as well as like a basic line dance to both men, because at this point we don't know between Kurt and Steven which one is going to actually show up on which date. And so it seemed as though neither really cared about which one they really wanted to do, even though one kind of seemed like not into the cotillion stuff, and that was Steven. So they basically played rock, paper, scissors to decide who was going to go on the date, which I just thought was hysterical. But it ended up being, of course, Steven was doing, the honky tonk date, and then Kurt was the one that went to the cotillion. And so then there was this drama with Rachel and this other lady. I can't even think of her name, but it was so stupid. It was because basically originally Rachel didn't like her dress because it was like this green dress, and she felt that it wasn't flattering to her. So there was like an option of a couple other dresses she could choose from, and she ended up choosing the same dress as this other lady. And so this other lady basically just made it like her storyline, and just made it like, I pale in comparison if she wears the same dress. And I'm like, seriously? Like, is your self-esteem that low that you're worried about whether or not somebody has the same dress as you? Like, pick it up and move on. Like, it was just so petty. It was so stupid. It was like, who cared? And I'm sure that production encouraged Rachel to wear the same dress to cause drama, because at the end of the day, it's still a reality show. If she wears a different dress and there's no drama, why would why would a second dress that is the same exact dress be available for you to wear in the first place if it was not with the intent on somebody wearing it on purpose to cause drama on the first episode, on, the first couple of days of filming, on the first group date. Come on now. And so then, on top of that, immediately Kurt brings it up at the table, and I'm like, oh my gosh, here we go. He's like, yeah, you guys both have on the same dress, and this and that. And so then there was drama because Kurt told one of the ladies, because he, first they're sitting kind of in a group and like eating dinner and this and that. But prior to that, he was like fiending for Carolyn to be on this group date, and she was not there. And he made the comment, oh, well, this means I can focus on the other women, I guess, for once. And I was like, dang, like, you really have it bad for Miss Carolyn. And so like I said, he pointed out at the table immediately that, the two ladies had on the same dresses. But then there was drama, after they ate and everything. And then there's like a string quartet playing in the background to try to make this very upscale and elite and everything else. And so he's up here telling, right off the bat, he's telling, I think her name is Kayla, how beautiful and stuff she is. And it's like a group of 7 or 8 women. And they're like, okay, well, you didn't say that to us. So what am I, chopped liver? Because like they're all feeling a certain type of way. Rachel is getting completely plastered at this cotillion, and she's like, yeah, I told them I wanted more tequila and this and that, and she's just pouring away. And it's so crazy because you'll see on other reality shows, like on Big Brother, on Love Island, and some of these other shows, how now they limit the alcohol to where it really is the equivalent to like 2, glasses essentially. And then it's like a limit because previously in the past, a lot of situations have gotten like completely out of control when there was too much alcohol involved. So that's why a lot of these reality shows now limit the alcohol. But it was just funny completely seeing Rachel like completely trashed, and she was like laughing, she was giggling, and she was just causing all of this drama like because everybody was like, they were just moving mad. They were like so concerned about Rachel, and they were not concerned about Kurt at all. So it was just crazy. And so then we kind of flip back and forth to Steven, at the honky tonk date. And pretty much I was kind of bored with most of the ladies on the date, with the exception of Carolyn. Like I felt like Carolyn was the most interesting there. And I also like Brooke, I think her name is Brookle or Brookelle. Again, I'm going to butcher these names the first couple of episodes, but I feel like eventually I'm going to get it correct. But Brookelle, I want to say her name is. So Steven had some concerns with her because she was asking questions essentially if he would ever be considering to move to like the big city. And he's basically trying to explain to her like, hey, I run a ranch, I run this farm, like I can't leave. Like this is where I'm going to be, setting down my roots, or whenever I settle down and get married and have kids and this and that, like this is where I'm going. So, that was a concern for him. Like he was attracted and he was interested in Brookelle, but this whole thing about moving to the big city, that just wasn't going to be his scene, whether it was going to be LA or New York or wherever. He's just trying to stay where his ranch is. So that was going to obviously be a huge deal breaker. So then there was like some other drama with Sarah Rose and this other lady, this blonde, I can't even think of her name. And she like totally made up this drama about her looking at her weird and feeling insecure and having a problem with her. And I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, I don't even remember you guys even interacting. And you created this whole story in your mind that people were jealous of you just because you were hanging out with Kurt. And it's like, but you totally have like your misplaced anger or misplaced insecurity or whatever. So I just kind of was like over Kayla because I'm like, who cares? Like, seriously? Like, you're playing piano with Kurt, like, who cares? And so then it was funny because Suzette, she was like going off in the confessional. She's like, why are the rest of us even here? If you're just gonna devote all your time to Kayla. So then that just caused like a whole bunch of drama. And so then really the only other thing, It was funny watching Steven trying to put together some moves back at the honky tonk with the ladies. And it was funny because, some of the ladies that were dancing on him, you could tell like he was not used to some of the ladies and how they were dancing and this and that, and kind of threw him for a loop. And it was just funny to watch it. It was funny to see it. And so then Carolyn had pulled him aside to have a conversation. And Carolyn revealed that she used to be married. She got married when she was young and she has a 3-year-old son. And she had got divorced earlier in the year. And, basically wanted to, reveal that information right off of the bat. So therefore, there's no drama or anything. I'm not sure. I'm still debating whether or not it was something that was revealed too soon or not. But then there was drama because Monica decides to, pull Stephen aside and interrupt their conversation, and people completely misinterpreted their body language, that it was a very serious and intense conversation, and they thought that it meant that he was uncomfortable or that it was an awkward conversation. And it's like, if Steven didn't want to talk to Carolyn, if he wanted to excuse himself abruptly, then that's when you know that a conversation is not going well. But to sit there and stare and make assumptions off of your perceived body language expressions versus what's actually happening in the conversation, I felt was just completely like, they completely missed the mark on that and completely like ruined a really good conversation. And I hope at some point they had a follow-up conversation, because we never saw it in the episode, if they ever continued the conversation, because I actually like Carolyn better with Steven compared to Kurt. I think actually they have like some really good chemistry, and I feel like, they could really vibe well. And I could see a situation where Steven could end up liking her as well down the road. So I'm going to pay attention to that. Because there's something there for her to feel comfortable enough to tell him this before she even tells Kirk, who she actually had the initial attraction and initial connection with. But maybe she was thinking as well, since, they basically live together, that he's going to tell Kurt anyways. But so I'm just trying to, watch that out as well. So then they go back to the cotillion, and like some different types of sabotage things are going on. Kirk's licking old girl's finger, and, Rachel's having a meltdown. She starts crying. Um, like there's just, everybody's going mad on this date. Like, it was just so awkward. It just ended up being like so much drama. Then we get back to the honky tonk date. They decide to bail early, and, essentially Steven says, okay, hey, let's go back to, the mansion. Let's just basically go and, play in the pool, play in the water, and just have a good time, and this and that. So that's what they ended up doing, and they just had a blast. There really wasn't any drama on his date, with the exception of the girl completely missing the mark and trying to interrupt Carolyn and Steven's conversation, which was completely just stupid. So that was essentially it. And then after that, once everybody got back, everybody was basically talking about all the drama that happened at the cotillion. And then the next morning, all of the ladies got up, and they wanted to basically have this big powwow with the entire group to discuss Kayla and Sarah Rose's drama. And you had to have a rose in your hand to speak. And it was just all this craziness, because everybody that was sitting there, especially the people who were on the honky tonk date, are like, why do we have to be here for this conversation? Like, our date did not have any of this type of drama, and it's not that serious. And so, Kayla, I think she just got in her head that, people were looking at her weird just because of the time she was spending with Kurt. But like, she completely is misinterpreting, whatever. And I think just wanted to have some drama, or just wanted to, pick on somebody that she felt she could pick on and try to come for, because they don't have the same connection as Kurt yet. So that's what I felt like that was. And so then it kind of goes back to the guys. It goes back to Kurt and Steven. They're back at their ranch. And they basically bake some cookies and try to do like some heart-shaped stuff or whatever to bring over to the girls. And essentially we find out that this day is going to be an elimination day. And so essentially they're basically bringing the cookies over to butter them up, but then essentially it's going to be a tool so that they can talk individually to some of the women that they either have strong connections with, or that they don't have as strong connections with, that they're thinking about potentially eliminating later. So then Kurt and Carolyn have a private chat, and she still has on like her eye masks on, and it's like you could just tell like Kurt is so smitten with Carolyn. Like she could do no wrong, that I thought. And so it was funny because she told him, how she was previously married, how she has a 3-year-old son, how her and her ex-husband, share 50-50 custody of the child, and how, her son is with her ex-husband now because obviously she's filming this reality show. And so it was weird because Kurt didn't have an issue with Carolyn having a child, but he had an issue with her being previously married. And I was trying to find out that angle, like why, her being married was such an issue. And why he was struggling with it, because you would think that somebody, potentially already having a child would be something more of a serious thing, because obviously there's always going to be, that tie with the ex or what have you. But he seemed more bothered that there was an ex-husband, and I was just so confused about that. Like, I don't know if he wanted to be the only potential husband. I still don't understand what he was upset about in regards to that. So that was a little bit weird. And still even now, like even kind of just because I think they showed a replay of all of this as well. And even still, I have no idea, what the angle is that he feels a certain way about that. So more to come on that. I guess we'll, continue to pay attention to that and see. So essentially after that, Steven and Kurt, they went to go deliberate, and, basically they went into this room where it has like all 17 of the pictures of the women up, and they basically have to choose 4 women that are in the bottom. And, essentially it's so like informal because you're so used to like The Bachelor where everybody's like dressed up for elimination, or if it's like Love Island, everybody's like dressed up, for the fire pit recouplings and things of that nature. Whereas this is like everybody can be in their workout clothes, everybody can be in their leggings, and they're like, boom, there's an elimination coming up. It's going to happen anytime, anywhere. And you could be in your pajamas and you could be getting sent home, or you could be in your yoga outfit and you are out of here. So, basically the butler tells the girls like today's an elimination. And so they tell them, that, the guys deliberated on who they feel is going to be in the bottom. And so they essentially did like a bottom 4, and essentially 2 people would be at risk and 2 people would be eliminated. So the bottom 4 was Suzanne, was Katie, was Brickell, and was Monica. And so Suzanne was losing it that she was in the bottom. She was pissed that Rachel was not in the bottom. But Suzanne doesn't realize her obsession with Rachel having the same dress as her completely had her rattled, completely had her unfocused when she did have time with Kurt. So therefore, she's not being seen, and she's not making herself be seen even when she is having some time with the gentleman. So their reasoning for putting her in the bottom was that essentially she's getting lost between the other women who are a lot more proactive, are a lot more aggressive in terms of wanting to talk to Kurt or Steven and wanting to get to know him. Whereas Suzanne, she's more caught up in being friends with the other contestants versus, really trying to build something of substance. And so, next, the other person that was at the bottom 4 was also Katie, I want to say, who was the Olympian. And the issue they had with her essentially was they felt that she just wanted kids too late. So they felt that that could potentially be an issue down the road because it kind of seemed as though, if things worked out, that, they would want to get married and have kids pretty soon. And then Raquel was also at the bottom because, she was the one that, wanted Steven to relocate to the city. And it seemed as though she's not willing to move to the ranch. So that obviously would be a deal breaker in that he's not trying to do long distance, obviously, since he, plans on living at the ranch and putting down his roots, starting a family there for the rest of his life, this and that, and not trying to go out to a big city like LA or New York or what have you. So that's on that. And then Monica was in the bottom, thank goodness, because she was the one who interrupted, the in-depth conversation that Steven and Carolyn were having about Carolyn previously being married and having a son and this and that. And it was just really rude. Like, she completely misinterpreted, their conversation and their body language versus the intensity and the seriousness of it, and trying to make it seem as though he wasn't into her or what have you. And she completely missed the boat on that. And I think it was just insecurity of the ladies as a whole, because they were probably already annoyed that they know that Kurt's already smitten with Carolyn, and now all of a sudden there's a potential for Steven to be smitten with Carolyn as well. And they wanted to try to sabotage that because they didn't do that to any of Steven's other one-on-ones. They only, this only happened that we saw in the episode when Carolyn was alone with Steven. So I think it's the jealousy thing where Carolyn basically is the main character and they wanted to try to knock her down a peg or two. So I think that's honestly what happened there. So it ends up being that they tell Suzanne that, she's safe, and so she runs back and screams around the house, and I'm like, that's got to be so awkward because it's like obviously you can hear the other lady screaming. So I think it seemed like at first like everybody was like in a different, it was closer to where the eliminations were happening, but then it seemed like when Katie got back, because Katie was also saved, that they were further away so you couldn't hear like the screaming and stuff and this and that. So I don't know, or maybe it wasn't, and maybe they just tuned it out or whatever and edited it out in the episode. So it ended up being Raquel was eliminated, and it ended up being Monica was eliminated for her sabotage attempt, and it was just something that Steven couldn't get past of just how rude and inappropriate everything was. So that essentially was the episode, and it shows, Raquel and Monica, getting their suitcases and having all of the girls say bye to them, from the staircase. And, then we kind of get a little mini season preview that I feel like is going to be amazing, that I'll probably do a reaction to, once I get some more like in-depth things, because then after that it just kind of does like the the usual elimination after elimination interviews with Raquel and Monica. They're both like riding off in separate Escalades from the mansion, and then both of the suitors, Steven and Kurt, walk back to their ranch and leave the mansion as well. So ultimately 3 women were eliminated this episode, and the season looks lit. It looks like we're going to be getting into, some one-on-one dates, some additional group dates. It looks like somebody is going to be exposed that's like totally there's a gold digger. Then it looks like somebody else is going to be exposed because they're having a relationship with one of the producers, and they're not interested in any of, the male suitors that are there. So it seems like there's going to be a lot of fireworks. It seems like things are progressing with Carolyn and Kurt, but then they try to portray it as like there might be some issues or some conflict, but I think it's fake news in the editing. I think they'll probably end up fine towards the end. because it's just giving nothing but main character. Although I would like to see a scenario where Steven also falls for her too, or if there's a situation where Steven and Kurt like have it bad for the same girl and how that's gonna go. So more to come on that, but that was pretty much it. It looks like it's going to be a good season. Honestly, I rather watch this than watch the seasons of The Bachelor with Clayton. So I'm totally on board with watching, Joe Millionaire for Richer or Poorer in comparison to this season's Bachelor. So I will definitely be tuning in. It definitely seems like it's a great start to the show. It seems like there's just enough drama, but there's just enough interesting people in Carolyn and in Suzette who are going to carry this season on their backs. As well as Rachel seems to be carrying the season too, but not for the positive reasons. But Carolyn and Suzette are going to be carrying the season for positive reasons, just because their whole aura and everything, their energy is just drawing everybody into them. And and that's what you want. Like when you have the it factor, that's who's going to be getting the most camera time. And so that's what's happening there. So let me know what your guys' thoughts are. Did any of you guys watch Joe Millionaire for Richer or Poorer? I think it comes on Mondays, I want to say. I had missed the premiere, but I had just watched it literally a little while ago. And I think it replayed, I want to say, this weekend on Fox. And I think it's also, I had watched it on Hulu. But I'm sure it's available as well, for on demand or that sort of thing for some of your different cable networks as well. So let me know what you guys think about it. So it looks like we're down to 15 women heading into episode 2. So we will see from there how things go and how things progress. Who are your picks on who you think is going to end up with Kurt and Steven? And what did you guys think of the show? Were you guys into it? Do you guys think it'll be a successful season? Or were you bored? Or do you rather watch The Bachelor this season? Or what are your guys' thoughts? Those of you who it is your first time viewing my channel, welcome. Thank you so much. Check out my playlist. Check out other things I have reviewed and reacted to. Those of you who've been back multiple times, thank you so much for your continued support. I am grateful, thankful, and appreciative of each and every single one of you. I read all of your comments. I try to interact with each and every single one of you guys. I appreciate the ongoing support from all of you. Also, please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you're notified the moment that I post new content on my channel. And per usual, I will talk to you guys again very soon. Have a happy rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And I will talk to you guys later.